Well, hello and welcome to this latest video. In this video, we're going to look at creating a GitHub repository and then pushing our work from our computer to this repository on GitHub. And then we're also going to look at altering the information on the repository on GitHub and then pulling the information from GitHub back to our computer. So it sounds like a lot of things, but it isn't really. There's a few steps you need to do, and to create the repository the first time round, but pushing and pulling after that is actually very easy. But before we do anything, I must actually give you some important information. My computer is running very slowly. That is very important information, but this is much more important. On GitHub, you must never put passwords, SSH keys, your cloud access keys, API keys, your credit card numbers, or your PIN numbers, because remember, this is public. If you put it up there, everybody can see it. People forget this. Big companies forget this. Only the other day, Microsoft pushed something up to GitHub, which included the access keys to Windows 10, as I recall. Other companies have done the same. So yes, it does happen. Big companies do make mistakes, so it's likely you can do the same. But if you remember not to put sensitive information up there, that's fine. And even in the private repositories, it's a good idea not to have passwords and SSH keys and things like that. Okay, so that's the very important information. No sensitive information on GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Mercurial, or anything else. Okay? Right, if you remember last time, we had created a Dropbox account. We had put into that Dropbox account a www directory. Inside the www directory, we created a tutorial directory. And inside the tutorial directory is a readme MD markdown. MD stands for markdown file. Okay, so we actually have a project on our system, and if you actually remember correctly, we also initialized the Git on this tutorial. So that's been initialized. The README has been added to Git and committed as well. Okay, and we can check that by going to our tutorial directory in terminal. So in terminal cd and then space ./Dropbox with a capital D /www/tutorial. Okay, and if we just type in git status, okay, you can see that we have, oh yes, we must have modified it. Oh yes, sorry, yes, that's my fault. I actually did modify it a moment or two ago. So yes, I need to do that. So git add, okay, and then git commit. And I actually changed the markdown of the header to being an H1 from an H3. Okay, so do that, and there we go. So if we now do git status, I do apologize, I'd forgotten I'd actually made those changes. You can see that it's actually in Git. Right, so now remember, Git on your computer is not the same as GitHub or GitLab or anything else. GitHub, GitLab, whatever, is actually in the cloud. It's somebody else's computer. Okay, So what's on your computer isn't necessarily what's on the other computer. Always remember that. Okay. So if you remember, we created the GitHub account, and now we need to actually create a new repository. And you can do that from either the plus sign on the top here or repositories, new repository. I do strongly suggest you read the guide, but just for now we're going to do the basic, the simple things. So we're going to create a new repository. So you need to give the repository a name. Okay, so we're just going to put this in as tutorial. Okay, and as you can see, it wants a short, memorable name. So a description for this. I'm just going to change that to Git tutorial. Okay, we only have public because we don't have an account, we don't have a paid for account, so we've only got public. I'm not going to initialize this repository with a readme because we already have one. You can see it's there. Okay, so next, we don't want a git ignore yet, and we don't want a license yet. If you've created a project on your system, it's always a very good idea to make sure that this is empty. No readme, no git ignore, and no license. Okay, I can't spell push. That's better. Okay, so double check everything is correct. And the nice thing about Git is that when you create the repository, it will actually give you the information you need, okay, to be able to push and pull to and from the repository. So as you can see, okay, we've got the repository. Now the first thing is, if you remember, we set up an SSH access, so we would like the SSH access to this because we don't really want to be putting in our password all the time. Okay, now it gives you a full set of instructions here. Okay, so it's important that you set this first, and then it gives you the instructions here. Now we're going to do the push an existing repository from the command line. The first thing you need is this line here. Okay, and as you can see, you can copy it. But before we do, so first of all, we're telling Git that we're going to give it information about the remote repository. Now, this just so happens to be on GitHub, but it could be on Bitbucket, it could be on GitLab, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so we're telling Git on our computer that there is a remote repository, and we're going to give it the name, we're adding it. Okay, so the origin is, in this case, git@github.com, and this is the file to link to. So we will copy that. Okay, and then come down to our terminal and we will paste that in. Okay, so as you can see, it's added that. There's been no errors. And then the second command is now to push the readme file and any other files that we have on our computer up to GitHub. That's what this is going to do now when I press enter. So I should press enter, it's connecting and it can't be established. It says, do you want to continue? So I'm going to say yes. Okay, Right, there we are. It's added GitHub to the list of hosts, and we need to actually put in a password. Okay, so I shall do that if you remember the password. Okay, and you can set automatically unlock this key whenever I'm logged in. You can do that if you wish, and unlock. Okay, and there we go. It's done it, and it gives you all the information here. First of all, it compresses it, and then it requests various information from Git, and then it actually sets up a new branch on GitHub. Okay, and it sends that branch up as well. Okay, now to prove all of that worked, we can come up to here and click on Git tutorial, and as you can see, here is the readme file. Okay, it's actually pushed the readme file from here, and we can check that they're both the same. Okay, tutorial, the project's readme file. Okay, and tutorial, the project's readme file. Okay, so that's a push. Now, normally you don't have to do the git remote add. You only have to do that once, okay, when you actually create it. After that, it's just basically the push command, which was the second command there. Okay, so git push -u origin master. That's what you would normally do to push up to GitHub or one of the others. Okay, let's actually edit this file. Okay, very quickly. So I'll click on edit, and we'll make a change, and we'll say oh, I don't want that because it will do, be using markdown, it will do something. Okay, so we've done that. Let's come down to the bottom. Okay, so we can commit changes. Now we can say what we've done. Okay, you can put in an extended one, but remember, you've got to commit on GitHub just like you commit on your computer. Okay, so, and you should always add a comment, because when you come back to it in 6 months' time, you won't remember why, so the comment will help you. So click on commit changes, and there we are. This is on GitHub. Okay, now, so GitHub, or the file on GitHub, the readme.md file on GitHub, is not the same as the readme file on our computer. So now we need to do that. We need to make it the same. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, so first of all, let's open terminal, and the command git pull. Now you could just use git pull and it will use the default. Okay, and it certainly will use the default, and as you can see, it works. Okay, but it's always better to actually give a bit more information. So basically, if you're working with branches and things like that, you would need to give the branch name. If you're not working with a branch, as at the moment, just typing git pull is sufficient. Now let's see what readme md looks like now, and look, it's been updated, and this has come down from GitHub. So that's how you pull. Okay, now let's just make another change to this. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this section in bold. So as you can see, I'm using Markdown. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know what the code is, but all I've done is I've made this bold. So this is an H1 heading in Markdown. This is bold. Okay. If we wanted it just to be italicized, we could just do the single asterisk, and as you can see, it's italicized. So that's what I've done. I shall save it. Okay, and so now the version that we have on our computer is not the same as the version on GitHub. Okay, so first of all, we need to do git add. Okay, to add. Okay, then we need to commit it. Don't forget the message. Added emphasis. Okay, so as you can see, we're now there, and now we need to, oops, does help. We now need to give the instruction, and again, you can use just git push if you wish, okay, but it's always better to use branch that you're using, okay, so it's always better to use the branch, and the branch here just happens to be origin master. Okay, so as you can see, I've cancelled this one out, and we're going to be using the origin master, because it's always better to tell it which branch you're actually wanting to push. So we press enter, and there we go, it's done it, and it's gone up. If we now go to Git and we refresh, you will see, once it's refreshed, that we now have bold and we now have italic. Okay, I hope you found that useful. My name's John. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. And I'll also get the phone. Thank you.